Alright, in this segment what I'm going to do is pose my character in a way where I can go ahead and render that for my portfolio and it doesn't look like a T-pose. Okay, the very first thing that we want to do when we pose our characters, make sure that we have keyframed all of the bones into position, into the bind pose there. If you're doing custom bones, very important. I always keyframe on 2 consecutive. And then since we've got our character pretty much scanned, we're going to go ahead and delete these keyframes. Right click and delete selected. Okay, so we're back to it. Oh, we've got some keyframes over here too. So we'll just back him up and delete those. And now he is animation free. The next thing we want to make sure to do is to turn auto key on and shift that to a frame that is not being used past your keyframes that you've set your bind pose on. So anywhere along here, I'll just choose frame 10. And now that we are set, we can go ahead and begin to pose our character. What I'm going to do first off is to hide my mesh and go ahead and put a simple IK system on my character. So I'm going to do a limb solver, and I'm going to do that for all of my limbs. Okay, I'm selecting on the thigh bone, connects to the foot bone. And I'm going to do the same with my arm. I'm not going to include my clavicle. I like to move those separately because there is such a limited range of motion on those. I don't want them to be impacted by my arm movement as much as they typically are when I use these automated IK solvers. So animation, limb solver to the hand bone. Again, on this side. The hand bone. Alright, now I can bring back my mesh. Let's see. And now what I'm going to do right off is go ahead and select the root node. I like to first get him in the get the position of the character, the weight distributed on the feet the way that I like it. So what I'm going to do first is face front, and I'm going to put my character in a pose where he's going to shift his weight to his right leg. So the first thing I want to do, you animators will know this, is to grab the root bone and shift the weight over the foot of the right bone. And now what I'm going to do is rotate that in a direction that the other foot is resting, and the weight being distributed in this way is going to give him a much more natural look. Now if I have rotated the hip bone, then usually the shoulder bone is going to go in a counterbalance about the same rotation factors. So I'm going to start, since they are linked by the spine bones, I'm going to start and just move up the chain, and realizing that there's going to be more rotation in the lower lumbar area. Okay, and now I'm going to drop this clavicle a bit and raise this clavicle up just a little bit. And again, if I have a counterbalance in the shoulder, then that is actually going to again cause the head to go in the opposite direction. So even though this follows suit, my neck is going to turn this way, and my head is actually going to go in the opposite direction as my shoulders. Not too much, but just enough. And I drop that clavicle, that shoulder, so I'm going to bring this arm down. And I never want to hyperextend my IK solver handles, so I want to keep that in mind when you're posing. Just don't ever want to hyperextend those, so you get some ugly flipping and stuff. So, all right, well that begins to show you typically how I handle posing a character. This guy's a pretty casual guy. I'm going to end up coming back in here and doing some fixes on the arms, because as you can see the skin is not holding up. So once I get him in the position that I want, I'll come back in here and do some fixes to the mesh, and I will be back to show you how I do that. The thing I'd like to show you is how to manage your IK a little bit better. Sometimes it seems to have a mind of its own. So one thing that I like to do is give a target for the elbow, and what that is just giving myself another handle to be able to manipulate the IK a little bit easier. So what I'm going to do is go to face front. I'm going to go to create panel. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my auto key for a moment, so I'll go over here to helpers, and I'll get myself a point, and I'll go ahead and plot that out there. And that's a little big, so I'll just bring him on down in scale. Maybe not that little. Maybe not that big. Alright, that's fine. So then what I'm going to do is right click out of there. I've got my point helper. Maybe I'll just hold my shift key down and give myself one for the other side there. Copy it. Alright, now I'm going to select my IK. Right up here I'm going to go to the motion panel, and this gives me options for the IK solvers. What I'm going to do is go right down here to IK solver properties, and I'm going to pick a target. Okay, so when I click on none, I can go down here and go out here and select on my point helper, and you can see what just happened to my IK. The elbow, in fact, now is pointing out, as before it was pointing in. So what this has done is give me a way to manipulate the angle of the IK, which helps me to pose my character much more easily. So I'm going to do it again on this side. Select my IK handle and effector there. I'm going to go down to IK solver properties, click on none. It's not very intuitive, but if you click on none, go out here, and then it'll tell you, it'll grab the name and plug it right in there so that you can see. Alright, so now I can continue to pose my character by selecting the IK and then moving the point helpers to help me position the elbows. Alright, I can do the same thing with my knees. If I create another point helper, face front, I always like to create in the orthographic views, so you know where your objects are going. So I've got a point helper here, and I'm going to just move it out front, out in front of my knee, face front again, F on the keyboard, and I'm going to line it up with the knee frame one. That would be better. Go ahead and position these a little bit better. Oops. Alright. More of the advantages of keyframing your bind pose beforehand. Alright, so now I'll grab this effector, and you can change the sizes of your end effectors also if you're continually grabbing both of them at the same time. And that's also located in the motion panel. I believe you can come right down here. and do the same thing that we did before. Is that none? And select on the target. Okay. Pick target. So now you can see that when we come back over here, to where we're keyframing, we can, you don't want to ever move anything without having your auto key on. And if you're looking for your keyframe, they're not there because you haven't put any keyframes on this particular object yet. If I go up here and select my root node, you can see keyframes because there are actually animation keyframes associated with this object. When auto key is on, it only keys the objects that you're moving. Alright, so if I want to keyframe this object, and what I'll do before I move them at all is go back to 0, keyframe them. If I click on this key icon, it'll go ahead and put those on. I'll do it again on frame 5, that's my backup. And now, if I come out here, let's see, I can see that I started setting keys on frame 10. I'll keep that consistent with these. So what I'll do is grab my object, face front, and I'll go ahead and turn that out a little bit. It's a little bit stronger pose. And say I want to turn my leg out because that is the resting leg. So you can see how easily now that can be done. Alright. Oops. Now, let's go ahead and right click object properties, see through on there. We'll go to smooth shade, and we're also going to hide or freeze this object so we can not have to be worrying about selecting on that all the time. Alright, so now that we have that, we can come back in here and maybe want to grab that and straighten that up a bit, turn it around again so it doesn't look so tweaked out there. It's a little bit. Alright, so you want to begin by grabbing the root node first and then working the bones outward. Okay, and that's true for the legs as well as the arms, clavicle, head. Let's get your balance first and then continue working out from there.